I'm Glenn McGuinness, and this is Outburst. On the program, has your mindset about the pandemic changed over time?
I'd say I'm less concerned.
I think as a country, we all need to reassess.
Vaccination rates in developing countries are very low.
There's definitely more divide than there's ever been.
But first, protests over vaccination mandates paralyzed Ottawa's downtown core, including Parliament Hill, for more than 3 weeks. For residents who live here, the stress and noise was unbearable. But the protesters were unwavering in their belief that their rights were being violated because they refused to be vaccinated. In the weeks and days leading up to the end of this protest, we spoke to Canadians here in the nation's capital, as well as in Western Canada and Eastern Canada, about their take on this tumultuous and significant time in Canadian history. Our question: what are your thoughts on the protests against vaccination mandates?
I mean, I get the people who are upset and who disagree with what politicians decided about the vaccination. But my personal opinion is that I support vaccination and the mandate. So I'm into protecting people, caring about people, and try to support the healthcare system. So I totally disagree with the way how they protest. They shouldn't honk and make a big noise. They should go on the street and have their banners and say what they want, but then leave and not come from Langley and then, make a big noise. And what's going to change? Nothing, because the big majority says we support you, the government and the politicians, because that's the right thing to do to protect our vulnerable people.
I feel for the Indigenous people, environmentalists, who their take on it is, at least what I'm hearing, is that when they try and put a protest in and just, try and do any kind of blockade of anybody, there may be 20 of them there, and the police are on it and they're dispersing it, and I don't know. I don't support the way it's playing out, I guess.
A waste of time. It's about collective rights, not individual rights.
I'm really on the fence. I'm really not that affected by any of the restrictions. I can work from home. I have no problem getting anywhere because of the vaccines. So I have no problem with it. But I also understand a lot of people that have been severely affected by it because, they can't go to work and things of that nature, and it's been on for 2 years. So I can see why they're protesting.
I love freedom of speech. I love the fact that we can protest things, but I am so against when people protest like that and they inconvenience everyone else. And I just think it's not right. So, and I'm pro-vaccinating, so get vaccinated, buddy, and then you can do your job. So that's how I think.
So I'm really well versed on this one.
But he is vaccinated.
I think.
So.
Oh yeah, I'm vaccinated. Mm-hmm. But I think that the whole passport thing is not right. People should be allowed to decide on their own whether they get vaccinated or not. That's what this whole country stands for, right? We have freedom to do this, that,
but
next thing.
They can.
No.
They just can't get on a plane.
That's true, and they can't go in a restaurant, and they can't do this, and they can't do that. Which is, you can't get on a bus. You can. So that's. I don't agree with that, and I think it's really sad that our political leaders, with the exception of Erin O'Toole, are not meeting with these people.
The folks who have rolled into town have taken control of the city. And that's not a protest, that's something else entirely.
It's pretty political. I don't like to view my opinion because it might differ from others. So it sucks to have the streets all closed up while we're here trying to have a vacation, but it is what it is. Seems pretty friendly all in all.
We have laws because the rule of law is primary in our society. That's why a democracy exists, and we should abide by democratic principle and not some far-right extremist element.
I think the time is over. That's it. I have some sympathy, but that evaporated about 2 weeks ago.
I have PTSD now on a horn and a truck. Fully, even the Canadian flag, I'm fully now I don't know what that symbol means anymore because people on both ends are using it in their own way, and it's really conflicting. I agree that we're all tired of the masks, I am so tired. I am tired of the mandates, but I think there are better ways to move forward.
That is a disaster. That is the only thing in my whole life of living in Ottawa that makes me ashamed to be an Ottawan or a Canadian even. I'm so ashamed of it. Our government's, our police response to it has been pathetic.
I fully support people's right to protest. However, obviously this has gone way past a protest, and it's very sad to see. It's people really not caring about how they are affecting Ottawa, the people of Ottawa.
I think it's great, especially the peacefulness of it. I know mainstream media is trying to make it look, like it was in the States with the BLM protests. Everything's been great, and that's been the primary thing, is peaceful. Nothing's going to occur if we're burning down cities, and we saw a result of that in the States. Was it last year or something like that? So it's been really good, and there's been a huge amount of support for it. So hopefully something can be done about it.
Mandates need to be gone. It's been 2 years, and I just think it's time.
Mandates are meant to protect people. Like, I'm not wearing a mask for me, I'm wearing it for everybody else. I have an 86-year-old mom. The last thing I want to do is get that and give that to her. So it's not for me as much as it is for other people. So for mandates, I mean, it's about the community, right? Like, I'm from Newfoundland. We grew up like protecting our neighbors, checking on our neighbors, that kind of thing. And that's what this is about more than anything else.
Yeah, well, definitely I don't believe that there should be a mandate. People should have the choice, It's just a Canadian way, to have a choice of what you want to have put in your body. You should have that. There's no doubt in my mind that Canadian freedom to have choice is definitely right up there at the top of the chart,
I think everybody should have a freedom of choice. You want to take the vaccine, be my guest. If I don't, I should have the choice. I shouldn't have the government telling me what I have to do to my body. It should be my decision.
You know what? I'm just kind of tired of all the divisiveness. Wish people would just get on board and respect one another.
I think it's amazing. I think that everybody's tired of living this way, and it obviously shows. All the people that are out, everybody who wanted the vaccine has gotten it, and the government strong-arming people and threatening to take more things away from them isn't going to change anything. The people that don't have it aren't going to get it. So it's time to start living life again. This is ridiculous.
As provinces start easing restrictions, and as we enter the 2-year anniversary of this pandemic being declared, the way people are reacting to getting infected by COVID could be described by some as dismissive. We took to the streets to ask Canadians if they've changed their way of thinking about COVID. Our question:
has your mindset about the pandemic changed over time?
I'm less concerned now. It's definitely changed. Because, to be honest, I think eventually everyone's going to get COVID. Whether you want it or not, you're going to get it. I guess it just depends how your body reacts to it. So it's definitely changed from the beginning. I was way more scared at the beginning.
Like, we're both triple vaxxed, and I think for us, I feel like my risk is quite low at this point. But we do have a 2.5-year-old kid who obviously can't be vaccinated yet. So for us, I mean, that's kind of, I guess, our main source of anxiety.
Oh yeah, I'm still more concerned. I mean, we still haven't been able to resolve it much, and the effects on healthcare are insane. I mean, there's more and more outbreaks every day, especially with regards to like just the U of A hospital and things in Alberta. And we haven't really been able to, put things on the downturn. And it's been like, we're on the 5th or 6th wave now. So I think it's quite frustrating. It's putting a lot of pressure on everyone. But yeah, so in terms of concern, yeah, it's still there.
Oh, much less concerned. We think we should open. Just let's get back to living again.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's time to move on, right? We have to live with it, and there will be some consequences, but it won't. It looks like it's less and less every day. So, time to move on.
I'd say I'm less concerned. I think because I'm triple vaccinated, and it's great to see that most Canadians have adopted a vaccine. I think hopefully we'll move from a pandemic to an epidemic, and I think we should all hopefully learn to live with the coronavirus.
I wish that people would
be more consistent with their care. I understand we don't want to completely shut our lives down, but at the same time, we always do need to exercise care and caution. And so, yeah, I've actually found this month very tough because I have found the mindset to be too lackadaisical and not enough care. And I feel that there was things that we could have done to mitigate things further and that were not done.
As you see how different countries are doing differently, example, countries like Sweden and all this, and other countries are doing their own way of reacting. So, yeah, it has changed. At this point, it's time for, to be, getting over with.
So I worked in long-term care for actually a year as an admin person. So seeing what it can do to the body before we had the vaccines, that has changed my opinion. I think a lot of people who are anti-vax or misled, they should probably work in a long-term care facility, or they could volunteer, to work at the ICU and see what that does to the body. Yeah, I understand that we are all frustrated. We all don't want to be in this situation. However, we do have to listen to science.
Definitely less. Like, everybody, for the most part, there's a lot of double vaccinated people, and that was the point of it, right? To be able to enjoy stuff like this and be able to go have a beer at a pub. So I don't feel like mine's changed a whole lot, but it's definitely a little bit comforting having stuff opening up again.
Yeah, I'd say less concerned. We kind of just ignore it and keep living our lives.
Less concerned. Yeah. I basically, we had COVID over Christmas, my whole family. So I think the Omicron variant is less severe, so I think we're fine.
It hasn't really changed significantly. I believe in following what the medical experts say to do. So I'm triple vaxxed, for example, and my family is, and we wear masks when we're supposed to. And the Omicron variant was a bit concerning, but it was also a lot milder from what I heard. So at this point in time, I think we're through the most of it. So I'm hoping clear sailing.
Probably the same level of concern. I'm not as concerned about a place like Ottawa. I think we're in relatively good shape. I'm worried more about the world overall, where vaccination rates in developing countries are very low, and so I'm kind of worried about that. But like I said, I think Ottawa's in better shape than it was a couple of years ago.
I watch the news in a lot of these foreign countries, they still got lots of outbreaks, I think the Trudeau should really cut back on the airport flights again, stop everything from coming into Canada, because it's really dragging on too long.
50-50, because we haven't still see the full light at the end of the tunnel. So it's still more like, it's not 100%.
Well, now that there's vaccines, I'm not as concerned, but I'm still concerned, for sure. I mean, there's lots of mixed messages going out there. There's lots of confusion. There's definitely more divide than there's ever been, which is a concern for me. So it's not just the pandemic, but the issues around the pandemic that are concerning. Mental health is a huge issue now, more than it was before. So, I would say that all the complexities that come with it are a big issue for me too.
I would say less. I'm much less concerned. I think it's, certainly an issue if you're in a certain category, like prior health issues or an elderly person. Other than that, I think if you take care of your body and you, eat vitamins, that sort of thing. And there are medications that are available if something were to happen. And say, get vaxxed too. But yes, I'm less concerned.
Yes, a little bit, because things have progressed quite a significant amount. But at the same time, we have the vaccines now, which are sort of helping things. But, if people don't necessarily comply with the rules, then it does get unsafe for the general public.
At the end of the day, we have to continue living. We can't live in fear. And I think I personally just came to a point where I decided that I don't want this to rule my life, and for that to manipulate my actions, my behaviors, my buying priorities. It just seems a little bit too, too much at this point.
Willie O'Ree, the first black player in the NHL was born in which Canadian city? Is it Saskatoon, Fredericton, or Winnipeg? The answer, Fredericton. Born in Fredericton, New Brunswick in 1935, Willie O'Ree broke the color barrier when he became the first black player in the National Hockey League. His first game took place on January 28, 1958 with the Boston Bruins. He almost didn't make it to the big leagues. O'Ree suffered permanent damage to his right eye when he was hit by a puck 2 years earlier and decided he could not tell anyone about the injury if he wanted to play in the NHL. Willie O'Ree would go on to play 45 NHL games with a total of 4 career goals and 10 assists, also making O'Ree the first black player to score an NHL goal during the 1960-61 season. Following his NHL career, Willie O'Ree became one of the great ambassadors for the game of hockey with his dedication to youth development and mentoring young hockey players from different racial backgrounds. He was awarded the Order of New Brunswick, the Order of Canada, inducted in the Hockey Hall of Fame as a builder, and most recently, President Joe Biden signed into law a bill which will present Willie O'Ree with a Congressional Gold Medal, the highest civilian honor in the U.S., joining the ranks of fellow pioneers Rosa Parks, Jackie Robinson, and Martin Luther King Jr. O'Ree will become the first NHL player to receive the medal in its nearly 250-year history.
Recently here in Ottawa, there was a political development which could be described as seismic. Erin O'Toole, the leader of the Conservative Party, was ousted from his position by his own caucus, even though the whole event was overshadowed when the protests got underway. We took to the streets to ask Canadians how they feel about O'Toole's removal and the future of the Conservative movement in Canada. Our question:
what are your thoughts on Erin O'Toole's removal as Conservative leader?
I believe it was probably coming. I think the Conservative Party is kind of getting split into two, and it's hard for one person to manage both groups.
Well, Erin O'Toole, I voted for him. That was the biggest mistake I made in my life. I thought he had the people's backs, but apparently he don't, you know. I have no problem with the vaccine. Anybody wants to get her, go get it. But if you don't want to, you should have that right.
He helped Trudeau win again, really. I think the Conservative Party was in with the Liberals on it. If they would have put a strong leader, Trudeau never would have been voted back in.
I was a little bit disappointed early in the game once Erin started, I like to call it, I don't want to be too mean, but I mean, he started flip-flopping on some of his issues and I didn't agree with it. One thing we're here today is mandates. Freedom, and I thought that he was flipping back and forth a little too much on that for my liking.
I don't really care that much. Maybe I feel a little sorry for him, but at the same time, I kind of feel like he did it to himself. He flip-flopped on a lot of things, and that's politics.
His removal, I'm just nervous that, I do think the Conservatives have a lot of, valid points, in elections, of course. Each side does, but I'm nervous if they elect someone who is going in a way of I don't want to say extremism, but who isn't open to the voices of all Canadians and is in a group of specific thinkers.
Well, there's a lot of irony that a lot of the convoy came demanding that Justin Trudeau resign, and in the end they ended up ousting the leader of the wrong party. I'm worried actually that with Erin O'Toole was fairly moderate. I think with his stepping down, it leaves room for some more dangerous people to take his place.
I think it would be good to try a new leader, so I'm happy with that. Yeah.
I think it's a big blow to the Conservative Party, actually, because he was kind of a centrist. Although he ran on a true blue Conservative, he switched to being more moderate in the general election.
Well, I think that was probably smart of the Conservatives to do that, but that party is kind of self-destructing and being torn apart by, different elements that want to go different directions. So I don't know where it's going to go from here. But I think he was well past his due date.
I think it was about time. Actually, it's been literally useless and worthless as a leader of the opposition. I think Pierre Poilievre have been always doing the real work. Same with Candice Bergen. So it was it was used for a very, very long time. And I think the next step is for the NDP and the Liberal as well to have a review on the leadership. And hopefully this will happen soon.
Agree or disagree, I think it was inevitable. I mean, that party is divided. And I don't think anybody is able to go on both sides of the divide.
Yeah, he needs to be replaced, but it's going to be very difficult for whoever succeeds him because the party split. And you can see that with the trucker response in Ottawa, where some of the party are making friends with him and others are staying away.
Felt bad for him, but, you know, it sucks whenever you get voted out of something. So
he lost the election.
Yeah.
That always happens. You lose the election, you're out. If Trudeau, when he loses the election, he'll be out within 6 months. Harper was out within a few months. That's what happens. They just resign, right? There's no sense staying there.
So the party is very fractured, and I don't know if they can heal their house because it's not the Big Tent Conservative Party that Brian Mulroney was elected on, and it's fractured with the Reform Party, and that's not fixable in my opinion. So I think he was just basically a victim of, I think the convoy basically created the exit.
If they feel like he doesn't represent their best choice in terms of winning the next election, then all power to them to replace him with someone else.
I mean, it's always a big thing in the Conservative Party for years now that they're not happy with their leader. So I think they really should make up their mind. I'm originally from Germany, as you can tell because of my accent. So the experience there was that Angela Merkel said, okay, we want to be a part of the middle of people. So they moved into the middle and not to the right wing. So the problem in Germany was that there's now a right-wing party in parliament. That was a shift for sure. And I think Canada has the same problem, or the Conservatives have the same problem. They have to make up their mind. Do we want to cover the right wing as well, or be there for most of Canadians in the middle, being a real conservative democratic party? And that's their decision. And yeah, good luck with that.
When we talk about Canadiana, 24 Sussex Drive can definitely be included in the conversation. It's been the home of every Canadian Prime Minister since 1949, beginning with Louis St. Laurent. But it's fallen into disrepair, and to bring it back up to date could cost Canadian taxpayers upwards to $37 million. But some feel the house has outlasted its usefulness, and it's time to move on. Conversely, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has lived at Rideau Cottage since he became Prime Minister in 2015. So, what do you think? Our question.
Is 24 Sussex Drive worth maintaining?
No, I don't think so. I think it should be, if it's to remain the Prime Minister's residence, place of residence, it should be torn down and rebuilt with the best Canadian green technology possible. Or he should be housed somewhere else. I don't know if that site is security-wise the best location. But I think that house is also past its due best before date.
I think we should just get a new one because I think it's going to cost, if I understand well, it would be better for them to just raise that one and start over, and I'm fine with that. Yeah.
I think those renovations can go towards better things like the money. I mean, Indigenous issues, education, you know, for university would be great. But I think maintain it as like a heritage building. But if you're maintaining it for someone to live there, I think, you know, as society changes and this country evolves, I think it's time to maybe like choose a different home.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it is.
And why do you do that? Can you elaborate?
Well, it's a historical part of Canada, although our history seems to be devalued these days, but I think it's worth spending the money. We spend lots of other money on more interesting things than that, so I think it should spend the money.
This is an old residence. It has outlived its purpose, should be destroyed, build something new, and we can do this.
I can't even recall who built it first, but it is a part of our heritage, I think. And I think that us, you know, we still have a Prime Minister, and I think that it's fair that we provide them with a home that's safe to live in and so on. And it's, you know, it's old. It's going to take a lot of money, I know, but I think it's worth it. Yeah.
If the repairs need to be done to a building that's maybe historic and maybe has a meaning to people, then things need to be fixed. But 37 million, it's quite a hefty amount. So maybe spread it out a little bit, maybe prioritize. Like there's ways of not having to spend so much money all in one shot. You can maybe do gradual improvements.
I mean, we've got Indigenous people no running water. So when you compare it to that, no. You know, I think everyone deserves to have clean water. I think that's where the money should be going right now.
We do have a tendency as a young country to dispose of our history. And it's important that we don't do that because there is an aspect of history that we want to maintain for future generations.
Absolutely, yes. We're part of the G7. We have a world image to uphold. If you look elsewhere, if you look at Macron in France, beautiful buildings. The U.S. White House, beautiful building. Why wouldn't we have a beautiful building to house our most senior government official?
Yes, of course, because at the end of the day, regardless of which Prime Minister is there, it stands for who we are as Canadians. And it's just like anything. It's the place where our Prime Minister lives, and he represents the country, and it should always be shown in a positive light, especially when foreign dignitaries and other people from around the world come to see it.
There's 2 points to that one. You know, for history, it's worth maintaining, but I think Mr. Trudeau can afford to have his own house personally, just like all the rest of us Canadians live and own our own houses. I think he could pretty much live on his own. That's my opinion.
Well, I disagree with that, but because I do believe that the leader of the country should have, a historical place to live in, and I think they should fix 24 Sussex, but I think that the contractors working on it need to stay honest as well and make sure they're not gouging. I mean, it's our taxpayers' money that's building that, so. But I'd like to see it redone.
Well, so like I said, I'm from the States. I'm sure they spend a lot of money to maintain the White House. It is a status of the country, and it is historic, so I would say that it's probably worth it to maintain it, because in the long run, if you don't make those basic maintenance repairs, then it costs more in the long run, and then you're in a bigger trouble. So I guess if it's cosmetic, no, not so much, but if it's critical to the construction of the building, then yes.
Thanks for watching this episode of Outburst on CPAC. If you have any comments about this show or any other show, you can find us on social media. You can also find us on our website at www.cpac.ca. I'm Glenn McGuinness, and on behalf of my colleagues at the Cable Public Affairs Channel, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.